Some movies become cultural shorthand, their titles alone resonating above an entire era of genre output. Debbie Does Dallas is one of them. Released in 1978, it's a soft-lit, cheaply shot, shamelessly commercial slice of late 70s mature entertainment whose fame and notoriety fell heavily into the zeitgeist of the time. So much more than the sum of its parts, the film poked holes in the tidy American stories about sex, commerce, and branding. It also set off a chain of legal and commercial fireworks that helped define trademark law in the years to come. This is the story of how a modest Brooklyn-shot adult feature took the world by storm. On paper, the plot is as simple as the title. Debbie Benton is a wide-eyed high school cheerleader who wants to make the Texas Cowgirls squad. To get there, she and her teammates hustle physically and economically, raising money for their mission through increasingly risky encounters. The set pieces are less about character than about a relentless variety show of vignettes, an 84-minute chain of cause and effect scenes strung together by the flimsiest of premises. This isn't a Golden Age film review where I can wax lyrical about the sophisticated approach to character acting or how the story transcends normal genre fare. That wasn't the point of Debbie Does Dallas, and it had no aspiration toward higher art. This was consumable adult content packaged for the widest audience, designed for a brief theater run followed by maximum video sales. The film's star performer was Bambi Woods, billed as Debbie. Woods, the face everybody remembers, brought a kind of bright, out-of-place innocence that the film exploited. She reportedly had tried out for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders in real life, a conflation of on-screen fantasy and off-screen rumor that only added to the film's mythology. Around her were a string of era regulars such as the ever-reliable Robert Kerman. Playing the shop owner, a big slice of the narrative follows his efforts to woo Debbie while she's under his employ. Industry enigma Arcadia Lake also makes an appearance as Tammy and totally lights up her scenes. Robin Bird plays a small yet memorable part as the insatiable Mrs. Hardwick, and Herschel Savage is here in an early role that arguably helped place him in the higher leagues. Golden Age legend Eric Edwards also lends a hand, bringing an assured performance to the mix. Behind the scenes, Maria Menestra is credited as the screenwriter of the film, and she is almost mythic in her invisibility. There's no trail of adult film scripts before or after her only known credit. The story falls flat into the margins. All that survives is her name tucked behind one of the most notorious and profitable X-rated scripts ever written. Jim Buckley, credited as Jim Clark, was the driving force behind the film, serving as both producer and director under the pseudonym. He wasn't a random industry newcomer, as along with Al Goldstein, Buckley had co-founded the successful Screw magazine. Through various contacts and relationships, he had built a small but lean production and distribution machine by the mid-1970s. The School Day Films production outfit relied on underground networks and mafia connections to get prints into theaters, bypassing the usual gatekeepers. In many ways, this was par for the course for New York-based industry releases of the late 70s. Because despite the title, Debbie Does Dallas wasn't shot anywhere near Texas. Most principal photography was done around Brooklyn, the Pratt Institute Library, and a Brooklyn College athletic field being the most talked about locations. It later became clear that the institutions had no clue as to the nature of the shoot, a situation that caused a certain level of controversy upon the film's release. Stylistically, the film's look is somewhere between a middle school auditorium pageant and colorful genre fare. Bright key lights, narrow depth of field on cheap lenses, and an editing rhythm that prioritizes quick payoff over continuity. The industry of the late 1970s was emerging from the era of theaters and into home video. For producers like Buckley and the financiers behind him, The math was simple. A theatrical run could make you money, but videotape, which customers could now buy and own, was a nascent goldmine. Debbie performed spectacularly on that front, selling tens of thousands of videotapes, becoming one of the most profitable genre releases of all time. However, if Debbie Does Dallas's only claim was successful VHS tape sales, it might have ended up as a simple footnote. What helped turn it into an industry powerhouse, still remembered so distinctly not far off 50 years later, was the decision to dress Debbie in a uniform that looked like the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders' outfit. The white boots, the cropped bolero tops, the star-spangled accoutrements. That look had already become iconic by the 1970s. The cheerleaders were national TV fixtures and a commercial brand in their own right. What could arguably be classed as a marketer's wet dream upon the release of the film, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders sued. The litigation, brought in federal court and appealed to the Second Circuit, argued the cheerleaders' uniform had acquired distinctiveness and commercial value, and the film's use of a similar costume caused a risk of negative association. The film's exhibitors claimed the First Amendment and artistic defense, but the courts were unpersuaded. The decision didn't turn on whether Debbie was art or obscenity. It turned on consumer recognition. The uniform was a brand signifier, and the courts treated it as such. If the Cowboys' lawsuit was about image control, the subsequent litigation around copyright was about money. When the film moved to videotape, something went tragically wrong. The theatrical prints had been shown, reportedly without a proper copyright notice, and the distributors failed to cure that omission across all formats and prints. In 1987, a Michigan court concluded that the omission had thrust the film into the public domain. This meant that the film could be reproduced, sold, and repackaged widely without permission. Tactically, the result is messy and deliciously ironic. The Cowboys had scored a trademark injunction, limiting the film's ability to trade on the cheerleader's image, even as the film itself became, for many purposes, free for anyone to copy. What turned Debbie Does Dallas into a legend was a mix of timing, a singular lead performance, and legal controversy. The film lived at the intersection of titillation and spectacle, and it left traces in ways the producers would never have deemed possible. Multiple sequels, stage spoofs, including a 2002 off-Broadway musical, and recurring cultural references that range from snarky to adoring. Then there's Bambi Woods, who became a ghost in the machine of pop culture. After the film's success and appearing in 2 sequels, she largely vanished from public life, a disappearance that fed legends and retrospective obsession. The film's afterlives, parody, academic case studies, disappearing leads, and midnight movie infamy are all part of the same package, a cheaply made piece of adult entertainment that exploded past its intended market, morphing into a cultural lightning rod that continues to resonate decades later. As always, thanks for watching, everyone. I've left a link in the description again to my mailing list. I'm currently working on a free guide to sourcing and collecting Golden Age films, as well as a movie release poster book. So please sign up so I can keep you all updated on that. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.